Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome to the first ever episode of the Daily People Podcast, the show that is made great by great guests. Today I'm hosting one of my longtime friends. His name is Zac Morgan. The guy owns 5 businesses with his brother and is an ultra marathoner. He's got some nuggets of knowledge and he's dropping them today. Here we go. Excuse me. Please forgive me as I don't really like asking for help. But do you know what would make a good intro? Just kidding. What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the Daily People Podcast, where we talk about achievements, have fun, and each guest is certified as awesome. I'm your host, John Mark Spear. Let's go. Zac Morgan, what's going on, brother?
What's up, man? What's up?
Oh, dude, just hanging out, getting another episode of Daily People Podcast in. So, Zac Morgan, the man, the myth, the legend, the Ultrarunner, entrepreneur.
Yeah.
How do you do it all, man?
Just a little at a time. Organized, I guess, time management. But yeah, it is hard to get it all in.
Do you have an intense Google Calendar?
Yeah, I'd say I do. And I get lost in it all the time.
Sure
A lot of things is just kind of on the whim when I get a chance to do something, but a lot of it is methodical as well.
Yeah.
So
how old were you when you decided that you wanted to go out and do your own thing and you didn't want to work for the man anymore?
Man, I don't know. I know from a real young age, when I was like, I don't know, probably sixth grade, 7th grade, I would dip toothpicks in cinnamon oil and I'd let them soak overnight. I'm not kidding. And I'd put them in bags of 25 and I'd sell them for 25 cents a piece at school. And people would chew on the cinnamon sticks. Yeah. And then also I upgraded to like gobstoppers, where I would hustle some gobstoppers, repackage them and sell them for, a set price in school. And so it's always kind of been in me. But then really what made me kind of jump over and do the actual entrepreneurship as an adult was my brother just kept picking on me. He just kept picking at me and telling me to come work with him. Come work with me.
Older brother?
Yeah, older brother.
Okay.
The one that I'm partners with. And he just wouldn't leave me alone in college. He'd be like, you need to come up here and we need to start this. So eventually I gave in, tired of the knuckle sandwiches. It's probably the best move I've made.
Yeah. Tell us what you do.
Yeah. So as in my brother and I are partners, but we're a multi-unit, multi-brand franchisee owners. Multi-unit meaning we own more than one unit, and multi-brand meaning we are in more than just one said brand. So we own a few Jersey Mikes and a few Marco's Pizzas.
Okay, so tell me if
Arkansas.
In Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah.
Yes. So Bentonville, Fayetteville, Springdale.
Yep.
Am I missing anything? Rogers. Now Rogers.
Yeah, and then there'll be a Fayetteville again later on in 2021.
Okay. So let me make sure that I've got this right. So you guys are technically franchisees?
That's correct.
Okay. So for those out there listening, a franchisee is somebody who buys into a franchise where the owner grants third-party operators rights to use the business's name, branding, and model in exchange for fees or royalties and ongoing support in the form of advertising or marketing.
That's exactly correct.
Yeah. So what was y'all's, you don't have to get too into it, but like your startup, kind of how did that go? You're meeting with whoever, you're talking dollars, obviously. What did that look like?
Yeah, so it's how it goes is you obviously do all the research, up front. That way you find a brand that you like, a brand that kind of works with you. One of our main things was fast and growing companies. We want fast growing companies so we can also help them grow. And it's also top of mind for a lot of customers. Customers like that, the hype behind it. So Marco's at the time was the fastest growing pizza company in America. They were at like about 300 stores when we signed on. They're at like 900 now.
What year did you sign on?
8 years ago. So 2012.
Okay.
2012.
Okay.
Yeah, so 8 years ago in October. So 2012 in October, we did our first sign with Marco's Pizza. And, franchise fees were anywhere between 18 to 25, depending on if you bought more than one restaurant. So if you signed like a multi-store deal, you got a better discount, stuff like that. So then as far as build out goes, as far as your loan or you have the money yourself, that just depends on how much you do of it yourself. So like me and my brother are pretty handy. So we did a lot of the first store built it. We built a lot of it by ourselves, you know, and then we had so that loan wasn't near as grand as it is in some of our other businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of how it works, is you just find a company that you think works well, and then obviously they have to tell you that you're approved before you can actually start building a Marcos, and you sign all the paperwork and stuff like that. Yeah.
Man, that's pretty deep. Especially, I didn't realize that you guys did all the work, you know, on your first business together.
Yeah. So, and we're actually so I was in college at the time when he decided to do entrepreneurship and jump out at Marcos. So he did all the front work for us. And I would actually take a week off of vacation from my job that I had, and like spring break or Christmas break. And I came up and helped them build it. And I ended up staying like 3 weeks, helped them build it. And then that's really what we did. And every store we build, we do a lot of, we're also the GCs, the general contractors. So we sub out everything, like, you know, electrical, plumbing, the main things that you can't do yourself unless you have a license for. But as far as like, you know, odds and ends, we definitely
building
take
counters.
care of that. Yeah,
and doing the everyday stuff.
Doing all the odds and ends stuff that we know we can do. Like, we don't hang the ceiling grid because no way. That's really technical. We don't do the plumbing. We don't do any of that stuff. We do, you know, do shiplap. We'll do all the, you know, the DIY stuff.
Yeah.
You know, we're ultra DIYers.
Basically anything that you wanted to do in your house or around your house, you could do.
Yeah, definitely. And with an extent of like maybe a little bit harder.
Yeah.
We build the walk-ins ourselves. We put up the walk-ins. We put the condenser units on it. You know, stuff like that.
Sidebar, dude, I honestly think you should start a fence building company. So for anybody who may not be friends with Zac on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, I don't know, sometime in September, October, am I thinking of this right? You started working on building a fence for your house, and it is probably one of the nicest privacy fences I think I've ever seen in my life.
Thanks. So, so we decided we were going to build a fence with, you know, and around our house. We did a lot of research on it. Once again, it's all research based. I don't really jump out and do something unless I've kind of researched a little bit and at least got my feet a little wet. We just went out and built a fence. It took us a little bit longer than we wanted, just because the supply of lumber was completely shot since COVID and everything. You couldn't get lumber for anywhere. You know, builders can't get lumber.
It's incredible what the pricing has done in that industry.
Yeah, it has. And built a fence. I do a lot of different things. Like, I built these Adirondack chairs that I'm sitting on, that, you know, your viewers can't see, but you know, build all kinds of stuff. So you know, hopefully we'll transition that into something one day as well. But fence building is, I'd say, more laborious than what we do now.
It looks like it, especially setting those posts and having to be patient before putting anything else on them. So you're 28 years old now, and I would say that as a young entrepreneur that you have a lot of risk in loans and time commitments and everything else kind of out in the marketplace. What makes you get out of bed in the morning, and what's your overall drive?
Yeah, so overall drive, I mean, what gets me out of bed in the mornings is definitely I have a wife, and she's pregnant, and she's she's like 30 weeks pregnant almost. And then I also have a 3-year-old daughter. So those will get me out of bed in the mornings to go out and provide for them. But also, we currently employ around 65 employees. And to be honest with you, that's what mainly gets me out of bed, besides my family, is the people that work with us. It's very, very important for us to help them as much as we can. And so if I'm not getting out of bed and doing the things I need to do, it can potentially hurt them. And I don't want that. I want to keep lifting them up as much as possible. So that's why I get out of bed. It's really for all the people that I feel like need me a little bit.
Yeah. So, you know, typically a person would get out of bed at, I don't know, 6:30, 6 a.m., something like that. Yeah. But you're also an ultra runner.
Yeah.
So how do you work a full day and fit in your running schedule? And then also just give us like a brief overview of what ultra running is.
Yeah, cool. So I mean, like, ultra running is basically any distance above a marathon, which marathon is 26.2 miles, and ultra is considered after that. But they made the first race that's after a marathon is a 50K, which is 31.1 miles or 31.07.
I'm seeing 31.07.
Yeah, because it's in K. So it goes from 50K to 50 mile to 100K to 100 mile with a whole bunch of different things involved there. You can do some hourly races that are like 6, 12, 24, 48. they've got up to 1,000-mile races, I think now. You know, the Moab
When's your first
240,
1,000-mile race?
you know, you know, I don't know. Whenever I feel like I'm physically ready for it,
You
but
could do the European Trail.
I could. Yeah. So, I mean, ultra running is it's a fantastic sport. It's a lot different than like road racing, even though like ultra marathons can happen on road. Most of it's on trail. Most of it's on like beautiful, you know, scenery and everything like that. And it's not, I'd say it's just as competitive, but it's a different type of family. Like road running is, I don't feel the same family that I feel when I'm like trail running and ultra running with a lot of the people out here. Even if you're competing against them and you're going 1 and 2, when at the end of the race, it's like very friendly and, you know,
I feel like you don't get the same scale of hippie whenever you're like running on a road versus when you're running. Yeah. On a trail.
Yeah, no, for sure, you know, because not only is it about, so in road running, it's mainly about speed. It's how fast can you get to point A to point B. In trail running, ultra running, that's not the case, especially out there in the mountains. There's a lot of other factors, you know, the technical of the terrain,
Yeah.
you know, the elevation gain, you know, all of it, the nutrition, the aid stations, what you carry on you, what you wear. It's a lot different than a road race, where road races are mainly, you know, more flat. But yeah, so ultra running definitely is therapeutic. It's probably the most therapeutic thing I've ever done for myself.
Yeah. How does it apply in your workplace? How do you take it?
You know, so as far as work goes, I've got an ultra running buddy that actually works with us, and you know, anytime I need to think about something, diagnose a problem, I definitely can figure it out when I run. And ultra running doesn't have to be long distance every time you run. I mean, I run 5 to 10 miles, you know, and those are normal runs. Those are runs that can definitely get you to ultra running races. But yeah, going out and just letting the trails, and I don't know, it's very therapeutic out there, and it lets your brain just coexist with everything else, so you can really dial in your answers and find out what you want to find out. And that's how it applies to work. You know, and then another thing is it just goes to show, you know, the people that know that I'm a runner at work, because a lot of them don't know that. I don't go out and share my stories with people at work, but because it's more about them, is, you know, when they do find out, they say, oh wow, if he can do that and that's that hard, then I know I can do what I'm tasked to do. And then also anything that I need to do at work, I know I've been through probably worse out on the trails.
Yeah.
Cramping and crying.
So roughly, let's kind of do a little math here. You've got, how many calories do you burn in just running 1 mile?
I think it's 1,000 calories an hour.
1,000?
So
okay.
Yeah, an hour. So,
okay.
So, you know, if you're running 1 mile, you're burning, you know, anywhere between 6 and 30 calories. You know, depending on you can burn 4 calories, I guess, if you're super fast.
Yeah. So let's see here. By the time that you're done running, I guess, an ultra event, even if we just scale it down to like the lowest, like 31.1 miles, right? You're probably looking at 3,500 calories burned on a run.
Yeah. So on an average run, a medium long range run is about 3,500 calories. My last 50K I ran, I burned, according to, you know, the watch and Strava and all the other fancy smancy things out there, I burned 7,600 calories in a 50K race.
Damn.
So
Dude, that's so much.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, it's crazy, you know, and the consumption on that, you know, is, you know, you want to consume around 300 calories an hour.
Okay.
It's kind of the guideline that they follow.
So you eat while you run?
Oh yeah, you eat while you run. You carry some gels with you that have like nutrition in them, as far as like sodium, potassium, some calories, and some caffeine in it. Mainly just sugars, not a lot of proteins, not a lot of fats. You mainly just want sugars for the glucose. But yeah, I mean, it's you know, you're trying to consume about 300 an hour and drink, you know, whatever your sweat rate is, depending on your sweat rate, how much fluid you need to take in.
Do you throw down on food the night before?
So typically the night before, no. It's typically especially these big races, it's typically a week-long process of like slowly building up, and then about 2 days prior, I'll load up really well, and then the day before, I'll eat a very decent meal, but I don't want to be overly full, because in the morning I want to wake up and not have that bloatedness of it, and so I want to kind of have like a nice breakfast as well.
Red meats, vegetables. I mean,
Yeah, a lot of carbs. Like, obviously, if you talk about running a lot of people go to pasta. That's also my
yeah,
go-to. It's worked for me so far.
yeah,
I'm a chicken kind of guy. Like chicken seems to do really well for me. It
yeah.
has my whole life. So like red meat and stuff makes me more hungry.
Hmm.
So I won't eat that before my race just because I know my body's not as satisfied. And then just a lot of carbs. I don't
So
care what kind of carbs it is, but a lot.
my wife is gluten free. And so she grew up eating pasta, and now we have to eat like the gluten-free noodles and blah 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 blah. Do you think it'd be a pretty easy switch for you to do the gluten-free route and still throw down on pasta, or if you had to, could you find something else to give you that energy, even if it wasn't pasta?
Yeah, yeah, I think I could. A lot of the products out there for running is gluten free now. A lot of the products I eat already are gluten free, other than like the stuff that I make at home, just because I'm not gluten free. But that's came a long way. The
Hmm.
gluten industry has, so I think there's definitely plenty of things out there. There's a lot of runners that are just straight vegans and vegetarians and everything like that. And I don't know if they consume gluten in their diets. I'm not really sure, but I know that if I had to, I'd definitely do some research to figure it out. Your body adapts too. Everybody's would
I'm praying
adapt.
for her to change. That way we can start eating like pizza again
There you go.
without
Well,
our cauliflower crust.
yeah, we have gluten free. We have gluten free crust over at Marco's. So
I'm
hit us
coming to see
up.
you, dude.
You come up here and see me,
Yeah.
man. We'll give you some
Call
gluten free
your guy
crust.
here in Little Rock and tell him that I want a pizza after this interview.
Yeah, I will.
So let's say here, like I want you to give me the breakdown here. But currently I'm 230. I exercise a little bit, but not a lot. If I wanted to start running ultra marathons, what would my training schedule look like? And how long would it be before I'm competing in an event?
Cool. So how long? It depends on what kind of competition you're looking at. If you're looking at first, second, third, then that's a different program. If you're looking just to finish, that's a totally different program.
No,
Like me,
I'm competitive, man. I wanna
yeah.
win.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, then if you want to win, the training regimen would start out a little slow, but then get pretty progressively harder. I'd say my first ultra marathon, I never really started running. It was literally from 5K to 50K is what I did. I ran a 5K. I got really addicted to it once I was out of shape. I ran a 5K. I was like, wow, this feels great. I remember where I'm at. I ran a 5K in 36 minutes. That's how out of shape I was. That's for me.
Dude, that seems fast to me.
Well, it's really not, because it's a 5K is 3.1 miles. So
Yeah.
my pace was relatively slow for someone my size and my athletic ability. 36 miles maybe someone's PR, and that's perfect. That's what we're going out for. You're going out for
Mhm.
your PRs if that's what you want to achieve. My time is not necessarily means that someone else's time is not good for them. But that was really, really not good for me, because in high school I ran an 18-minute 5K. So literally I doubled my 5K
Mhm.
time in like 8 years, right? So it's
Yeah.
terrible.
I bet your
So
pride was hurt too.
yeah, I was dying. It was terrible, miserable.
Yeah.
It was miserable. It was December. It's cold. Oh
You still
gosh, it was
look good
terrible.
though. I mean, it wasn't like I bet you weren't like a bad looking dude at this point in your life.
No, I was 20 pounds over what I consider weight. And so like
What's
once I
weight for
got
you?
about 170, so I weighed about 192. I was almost 200 pounds, which is the heaviest I've ever been in my life.
Yeah.
So I'm a skinnier, leaner guy my whole life. So
Mm-hmm. Ectomorph.
170 is a good sitting weight for me. What'd you say?
Said ectomorph.
Yeah, an ectomorph.
Yeah, that's a real
Um,
skinny person, by the way. Then
yeah,
there's
definitely.
mesomorph, which is like my body type, which means I hold muscle well, but I can
I don't
also get a
know.
little chunky. And then there's
No,
the endomorph,
I
which
think you're more of an endo. You know,
oh come on,
you
dude.
know.
Endos are
I
like
mean,
the big
hey,
dudes.
yeah, no, endos are heavy set guys that
Take it back.
can also be nice and strong. Yeah, you're a mesomorph. I give you that.
Come on, man.
Yeah, but yeah. So as far as training program goes, I mean, I was 5K to 50K in 18 weeks.
Mm-hmm,
18-week program. I did a lot of searching, and really the first thing you want to do in your training goal is to find a race and sign up for it,
yeah.
and give yourself a realistic time frame.
And
Don't
this
just go
was
out and
just for
say,
a 5K. You had just found a 5K race, and you're going, okay, I'm 18 weeks out. I'm setting the
oh,
date. Boom.
no, I said I signed up for a 5K and ran it that Saturday. I signed up for a 5K on like a Monday, didn't train
Okay.
for it, went out, ran it on Saturday.
Okay.
Said this is what I love this. That was great, even though it was terrible. I'm gonna get better at it. And I found a 5K or 50K 18 weeks out, and that was perfect, like perfect time frame for
50K.
me. Yeah. So I went from 5K to 50K in 18 weeks.
That's your first ultramarathon event in 18 weeks.
Yep. Yep, in 18 weeks.
I would hate to be your shins.
shins are actually they weren't too bad. It was more my Achilles at the time. But as far as training program went, you have one day, and typically a Saturday, Sunday, that is your long run, and it's between 12 to up to 26 as far as I went. Some people go up to 50K range, like they go up to 30 miles when they train, and that way they know they're trained up to that. For me, it was 26. I didn't feel like I needed to go any farther. That's a marathon in itself. And then it would vary. So like you do a big day on Saturday would be like 24, and then the next Saturday would only be like 12, and then it would be like 22 and 16. And then some Fridays were some larger days, like 13. You had a 13 day followed by a 19 day. That way you got to bulk your miles in 2 days. Also, it just kind of gives your body that resilience that it'll need for the whole race.
There's a bit of a rest schedule built in there too, though.
So the main thing you're looking for is, just like when you work out, it's the recovery is the biggest issue. That's what you want to focus on the most is, the best recovery you can have, the better that better outcome you'll have. Being in the food industry, we're on our feet 24/7 anyways. So there was, recovery is different for everyone. My recovery is at work because I walk around 7 miles a day. So that's just what happens. I can't avoid that. So that's just built into my schedule already. But yeah, so there's really 1 or 2 rest days. For me, I built 3 rest days in and I ran 4. There's a lot of guys that run 7 days a week. There's a lot of people that run, 6 days a week, and they train outlandishly high miles, which is perfectly fine if it works for them. For me, especially for 50K, I would shoot around that mileage to run per week. There's people that say that you need 70 to 100 miles. For me, it was 35. That was my range with peak weeks, meaning 2 or 3 weeks before my taper. 2 or 3 weeks before my taper, which taper is where you start recovering a lot more and doing less miles, would get up to about 50, 55. So I went from 35, anywhere between 35 and 55 miles in a 4, rarely 5-day running period. And so for me, with work and family, 4 days is already tight. That's a lot of days to run. And so that's what I had to fit into it. There were weeks where I was fortunate enough to have 5 days, and there was 1 week where I had 6 days of running. But once again, that's all different for everyone. It's in moderation. So
it's just nuts that you do this, and I know that you're working probably 8, 10, 12-hour days at your businesses, and then you're trying to fit in days where you can go run 13, 15, 18 miles, something like that. And then you still have a family to get home too. So it's not like you can just I'm going to go to work and then I'm going to go run and then I'm going to go to sleep and then I'm going to wake up and do it again the next day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Some days
the work-life run balance.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. So as long as once again, everything in moderation is good for you. You do it too much, anything, it's not necessarily good for you. There were some early mornings, 3:30, 4:30 starts to get out there and run for 6 hours. That way you're back by 10, so you don't miss a lot of the day with your family. 10 a.m. But there were days where I would have to leave at 10:30 at night and go run for 2 hours and get home at midnight, 12:30 the next day. But, it's all about how bad you want it at that point. Yeah.
Do you ever sleep with an IV drip that way you'd stay hydrated?
Nope. No, I did not. I've heard of people doing that. That's crazy. But no, I've never done that. So my first 50K, I went out, and it was the first time they've ever done this event in Arkansas. It's called the Arkansas Razorback Revival. It's on the Ozark Highland Trail down in Lake Fort Smith. It's a brutal, brutal course. They're now claiming it. All the ultra runners that have ran it this year and last year claim it as being the hardest ultra marathon in Arkansas. Fantastic. I'm glad I tried it for my first. So I ended up finishing 5th, which was a great finish for me, having no clue what I was doing.
You're the man.
I got really lucky with getting in with a group of 2 guys, and they were holding the pace that I could hold, and I ended up running with them for 20.
Can you listen to music while you do that?
No, I don't. When I'm training, but when I'm racing, I have not listened to music when I'm racing.
So you don't, do you like sit there and run with those guys and you're just like, hey man, like, I know that we're running together, but once we get closer to the end of this thing, like, I'm gonna dust you.
Yeah. So there's that camaraderie. Like the few guys I ran with, I'm friends with now. Like you run we ran 4.5 hours together.
You exchange handles while you're running?
Yeah, like you'll just end up talking and you get to know about them and their family and what they do and everything. You're running for 4 hours and it's either really awkward if you don't talk to them, or you just get to know them really well. And there's that general knowledge of, hey, we're still in it for competition, especially when you're up on the first, a top 10. I'd say that, hey, at some point we're going to break apart. Whoever's ready to take that move.
Yeah, see you at the finish line.
Yeah, exactly right. And that happened to me where one guy was like, hey, I'm about to turn it up a little bit. And I was like, cool, I'm not. I can't.
Nice knowing you though.
Yeah. So I said, appreciate you running with me for 4.5 hours. And he took off and ended up finishing second. We were in fourth and fifth at the time, so he made up a lot of ground.
It's incredible the timing that goes into knowing at what point in a race you should just turn it up, just give it.
Yeah. And he had done a number. That was my first one, and he was really nice to run with him because he taught me a ton about running just in general because he's ran 100-mile races. He ran a 100-mile race a month before he ran with me, and so it was just like, so he was completely in a totally different physical, and mental state than me, where I'd never ran one. I had to deal with all the mental obstacles that come with it, like I'm lost. When you're lost out in the trails, even though you're not, your brain plays tricks on you. You hear things you don't want to hear, and you see things that you hallucinate sometimes, and you see things that aren't there. But you also deal with the aspect of how bad you're hurting, because no matter how much shape you are, it hurts.
Yeah,
it's brutal. And so there was points where I was like, I'm done, I'm stopping, but mentally I had to keep going, and that's where a lot of the training came from. A lot of it came from the training. It's like, that's why you go on those long runs. Long runs really aren't for the physical aspect for me. They're more of the mental aspect, to where I can say, like, all right, I've already been out here 5 hours. I got an hour left. I got 2 hours left.
So I had an interview a long time ago, and this goes back to the mental deal that you were just sharing. I had an interview a long time ago with a head coach, and we're sitting down and we're talking about, well, do you rise to the level of your training, or do you fall to the level of your training? Yeah. Which do you think that most people do?
Well, I'd say, just from my experience with some of the people, I'd say that we all have fallen to the rise of our training at some extent. And then we've learned from that. Hopefully we've learned from that. And the people that haven't learned from that, I think, are still going to fall to the level of their training. And we actually talk about that at work. The sales customers, they're going to however our service is wherever the sales are going to fall. So if we have great service, our sales are going to continue to climb. If we have bad service, the sales will fall. So it's the same exact thing. And that is how we train, and that's how we train our people. And so if your training is lesser, then you're going to have a lesser volume of sales. You're going to have a lesser volume of output and running and anything you do. So I'd say for me, once again, training was how to build that training, so that way you train above it, and that way you're ready at race day.
Yeah. So. We've got a restaurant here. You ever heard of David's Burgers?
Oh, yeah.
You've heard David's. So David's is like a small 5-store chain here in the central Arkansas area that every time you walk in the door, the whole staff just screams out, "Welcome to David's," and then everything from there is a true customer service experience. Like, I have seen how building a business or anything really can, if you're willing to put in the effort with the people that are walking in the door, you're going to get that repeat business.
Yeah, 100%. And those employees they have are not any different than the employees that we have, as far as employees that people say, I can't get those employees. I couldn't hire someone like that. Those people are led by someone. And the only reason why they do what they're doing is because they have some motivation within themselves, and also the great leader that they have behind them. We have Feltner Brothers up here, and everybody knows Feltner Brothers. And Feltner Brothers is fantastic. And those dudes are in there every day, the brothers, and they have great service. And they have my business because their people respect them, and the people respect the community. And that's the biggest thing. Like, your community wins.
Yeah. It's interesting how getting repeat business is like a thing. Have you ever heard of the Red Napkin program?
I have heard of the Red Napkin program.
Okay.
I've heard of it very briefly.
My understanding of the Red Napkin program, this is where it'll differ from your type of business. So you guys, would you consider you guys like a fast food type deal?
So both of our restaurants are actually considered quick serve.
Okay, quick serve.
So it's like basically one above fast food. Then you have like quick serve, it's totally different category.
Yeah.
As far as like McDonald's and like Chick-fil-A.
So the Red Napkin program, and this will tie back into customer service, but the Red Napkin program is for like your dine-in type restaurants, right?
Okay.
So basically, I walk into Bob's Steakhouse, and I'm like, "Hey, hostess or host, I need a table for two." And then they're like, "Well, have you ever eaten here before?" And I say, "No, I have never eaten here before." And so they have silverware that is rolled up in red napkins, and then they also have silverware that is rolled up in white napkins. So he grabs the red napkins that lets the server know that, hey, this is my first time coming here. And then we go and we sit down. And so the business model of that is trying to identify who has red napkins in their restaurant and making sure that the service is still on point with your white napkin people, but we're really going to focus on these red napkin people, and we want you to come back, so we're going to make sure like your glass is always full if your table, or whatever it takes for us to earn your business. And then whenever the meal's done, we're also going to give you like a little $5 coupon, come back in next time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like
I love that program. That's a perfect program.
Yeah, but that scale of service is what builds those businesses. So like if I was a red napkin customer in one of your stores and I didn't have that scale of customer service, which is not the case with any of your stores, but let's say I didn't, and I didn't know you, there's a very likely chance that I would not be coming back in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you guys do? You hire a new employee. How long does it take you to train them into being somebody that you think has good customer service? Or how long does it take for you to even consider them to be a valued, great member of your team?
Yeah. So, I mean, kind of starts with the interview process. Really want to do the interview process is as deep and we don't go through a lot of questions as far as like, tell me about a time that you had an upset customer and how'd you deal with it? Because, that's what large corporations do. And that's just like the overall interview questions. I don't ask a lot of those questions just because I want to know personally how you are and how you act, just to me.
Give me an example of one of your questions.
Yeah. So what do you like to do for fun? Do you play sports? Are you competitive? Those are the type of questions I want, because we want people that are competitive, because, and not necessarily with other people, but within themselves. Because if that's the case, then I know that they can help the overall plan here. The overall that we want is, if you're competitive, you're going to try to do better every single day. And that's what we're looking for. And then there's other questions that we go into, that's like, are you able to work with team members? Because a lot of the kids we hire, a lot of people we hire are 16, 17-year-olds, so first off, it's their first job. They have no clue. And second of all, the older people that we do hire, their background may have come from a large corporation, and we're totally different structure than that. We're a lot smaller. And also there's, like the email threads, that's not like a thing for us, where you have like 6 email blasts a day, stuff like that.
Which is great.
We're a smaller corporation. We do, we use different channels, but So how long it takes for us it varies between the person. We don't really have a set timeline for each person that says, hey, in 3 months, you got to know how to do X, Y, and Z. Each person learns on each person learns at their own rate. And so we value that. But we want to make sure that people are continuing to progress. And as long as that's happening, we know that there is a chance for them to be someone else with us, right? And everybody, we have yet to hire an outside manager or GM or area director that hasn't quit on us in less than 6 months. So we don't typically do that. We typically hire from within, meaning we promote. So every single one of our GMs now were day one employees that were they were crew members. They started out as just crew members, washing dishes, making product, and now they're GMs. And that's all because of their hard work and their drive and their will to learn. You continue to learn and you continue to go places.
I had a real interesting thought on the outside hire deal. So my background, which is in the coaching industry, and I was thinking about this. A couple days ago, but there are times when it makes sense to hire outside of the business
Yeah.
and times when it's not. So like a time when it wouldn't be is like, let's say that you have a GM that's like, hey bro, I've appreciated my stay here. I've been here, 8, 10 years, but I want to go out and do my own thing. Right. Ideally they've trained somebody underneath them to where, you
Yeah.
can bring up the next person. But then there's times like, where, especially in the coaching world, where a program or school just, completely tanks and you just go, you know what, I need a fresh start. How do you keep your stores from needing a fresh start?
There's no real recipe to it. Treating your employees as best as possible. Continue to show them there's growth options here, because the one thing that for me and anybody that we hire that is competitive is the stagnant. We don't want to be stagnant. Like I don't want to be stagnant in any position that I'm at. When I worked at previous jobs, I was always trying to get a different position as far as moving up and doing more for the company that I worked for. And so the companies that the people that work for us, we want to instill them when they're 16 that, hey, if you grind out with us, work hard. We talked about it the other day as far as like sweat equity. The piece of the pie is yours. We have no problem sharing the pie. And so really that's the main thing is we've treated our employees, I think, as really, really well as far as a company that's as small as we are. And we continue to let them experience options and without having to put the burden all on them. We let them trial it, and then they say, okay, I don't like that, we'll move something else. But we never tell them they can't be something that they want to be. If they want to be the GM, good, I'll train you, and it'll be so much fun for me. You'll hate it for a little bit, you'll end up loving it, and then as soon as we grow, then there's an option. There'll be a spot for you. And growth is one reason why we have been able to retain people, is because we've made promises, we've held those promises, kept those promises, and it's shown true through the we have roughly 65 employees in the food industry, and we have roughly 15 employees that have been with us for 4 years or longer, which once again, the food industry turnover is like 120%. So it's a lot. So for us to have 14 employees,
that's strong retention rate.
For 4 years. That's a huge retention rate for us. And a lot of those people are GMs, assistant managers, and they're great assets to our team, just like, everyone, but they're major pieces in our play.
Come on, man. So honestly, I think this might be a good time for a brief commercial break. Got to pay the bills and stuff, as Dave Chappelle would say.
There you go. Old Spice, not a sponsor yet.
Oh, not a sponsor yet, but potentially one day if we continue to grow at the rate that we're growing. So, all right, we've talked a little bit of customer service. We've talked about your business model and your running life. Let's tell everybody how we met.
Great. We haven't done that. Sounds like we haven't told anybody that yet, I guess.
Yeah, dude, there's such thing as like foot and mouth syndrome.
Oh, really? Foot and mouth syndrome. That's what you'd call it? I think that's a good way to explain it.
For you
or for me?
Do you have another analogy?
No.
For it? Oh, it's definitely for me. It's
definitely a foot and mouth moment for you.
Yeah. So we were talking earlier about how working at large corporations is one of those things that necessarily is something that neither one of us enjoy doing. And we met at Lowe's, right?
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor either. Get more done. Isn't it Get More Done?
No, that's like I think that's a HD thing.
Oh, whatever.
I'm gonna say the other company because I still have brand loyalty.
Oh, I don't. So
yes, we met at Lowe's Home Improvement. Get More Done. I think that's is that the same?
Yeah, we're red vest men.
Yeah, we were red vest.
Yeah. So you're a loss prevention manager there. And all I knew was like you're some snazzy dude that kept running around in your breeches and polo shirts working. Yeah, you just walk up and talk to me for a while.
Yeah.
So tell everybody how I made such a big mistake that turned into such a great friendship.
Yeah. So how it worked out, I believe we met, how long ago was it, John Mark? Like 5-6 years ago?
Like that, yeah.
Yeah, something like that, right? So this is like a pretty good while ago. I had just moved up here for Lowe's. I lived in Benton, Bryan area for a long time, at Little Rock area in Arkansas. And I worked there. I moved up the ranks, and then I got offered a position as a Lowe's prevention manager in Fayetteville. So I moved up here, and then you were working, and you saw me driving my car around, which at that time I had like pretty much a brand new Challenger. You saw me snazzy dressing.
A very beautiful, black, sexy, always clean, sexy Challenger.
Beautiful Challenger. Like,
did I mention it was sexy?
No, I don't think you said that, but it was beautiful. It was such a beautiful car, and it was so much fun.
Yeah.
And so one day, I don't remember how we just started talking or whatever, and then I don't remember if it was like the first day we ever met or if it was like a couple days later.
The first day of significance is what?
Oh, this was the first day. Okay, great. Yes, definitely foot and mouth syndrome. You said, so how'd you get that Challenger? And you said, and then you followed up with, is that daddy's money? And I'm pretty sure I followed up with, I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure I followed up with, my dad's dead, so no.
Yeah.
Somewhere around like that. Yeah. And for me, my dad has passed away. He did pass away. It's been 10 years this month. But for me, joking about it and having a good time and not being so serious about that has helped me, in everything that I do. So like, it's the way I express my emotions. And so you not knowing me and me just throwing that on you, definitely, I know it made you feel awkward. And that's probably the best part about it is, no, it wasn't daddy's money and my dad's dead. So,
yeah. And you're telling the 100% truth. And I'm like,
he was standing there ready to quit instantly.
I don't embarrass easily, but I was like, this guy thinks I'm an absolute jerk. I know he does.
And
we've been friends ever since.
Yeah, we've been friends. Well, regretfully, but I mean,
not regretfully, whatever.
Yeah. No, yeah. We've been friends ever since. It was a fantastic date that we decided to meet each other and actually become friends. Yeah. Great story. It's a fantastic story. It's been told a lot.
So you're talking about your dad. Okay. Give me a little bit of some of his qualities that you carry on in your life.
Yeah. So the coolest part about, I'd say, my dad passed away when I was 17. Actually, when I was 18, I just turned 18. So I just got out of college. He passed away from some cancer, melanoma. He found out he had like stage 5 cancer, died like in 2 months, passed away. So we didn't have time to even console each other or, try to like get over it or anything like that. Well, there wasn't time. And I think for me, that was the best because I didn't have a chance to like be upset. It was like, all right, now you have to move. You have to do something for your mom and your little brother. And, you got to take care of them. So there wasn't that time for me to like where it took him a lot longer to pass away. And, some people want that, some people are like, hey, a year for him passing was great for me. I knew he was sick for a year. That's great. For me, 2 months was like, even though I don't want to pass away and I think about him every day, but that was the best emotional, like that could have happened for me. It just helped me a lot. The traits that I carry on from him, I mean, I'd say like definitely hard work. That dude would work. He would work his ass off 24/7 nonstop. And then the coolest thing that I keep learning about him, and I keep learning traits that I have in my father is the older I get and the more things that I try to accomplish, I see all the little things that he taught me that I didn't pick up on until I went out and started to learn it on my own. Yeah. Like building a fence. My dad was a carpenter. He was a carpenter his whole life. He built everything. He owned a couple companies as far as like construction and stuff like that. So like that's in his wheelhouse. And that's what I did with him every day. We were outside, we were building fences, building a garage, laying concrete, building a basketball court for myself, and it was all poured by him and floated by him and everything. So everything that I have as far as like that aspect of my life, those traits of my life were 100% from my father. And it's just like come full circle. It's super cool. Cause like, if I know how to do anything that's outside or electrical or plumbing or anything around the house, it's because of my father. And that's like a super great trait to have. Yeah. And it just shows more and more every time that I do something. It's great.
Man, I've got a lot of those kind of same qualities, especially when you're talking about doing some of the handiwork around your house. And growing up, we didn't pay anybody to do anything for us until we either decided that we didn't want to do it or that we didn't want to do it. I mean, we did everything. I think the only thing I would consider paying somebody to paint my cabinets
Mm-hmm.
just because that sounds like a
Yeah.
nightmare.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But other than that, there's a lot of things that I'm confident because of the way that my dad helped raise me that
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I can do myself. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not really,
We still don't pay people. We
yeah,
still don't pay people.
that's right. Take that into
Nope.
the workplace too, man. You got to get all
Yeah.
that free work, free labor.
Well,
Come in,
and
cook up a pizza, and we're not going to write you a check. And
yeah, I mean, well, it's the same thing with like when something breaks at work, man.
yeah,
If something breaks at work, we don't have a maintenance guy, and we don't normally pay a maintenance company. We go in there and fix ourselves, unless it's a trade that we can't do, like
yeah,
AC. Like I don't
yeah.
really know enough about air conditioning,
Nah,
HVAC
HVAC's
stuff, so
weird.
we pay somebody to do that.
Yeah.
Especially when they're trying to diagnose when the AC is not working and it's 106 degrees outside,
Right, we got to
and
get
then
it done.
you have an oven running that's running at 400 degrees, and so you're dying inside. I don't want to mess with that.
I
But yeah, anything
understand
around the
that.
house, definitely try to fix myself.
Yeah. So, dude, yeah, that's an interesting deal. So, obviously, your dad was instrumental in how you were in in your home life and some in your work life. Would you define your dad as a giver?
I would say that he was a very giving person. I think
Yeah.
so. I think that a lot of I'd say he was a lot. He was, yeah, I would say so. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I see this quality a lot in you, and I think you know where I'm going with this, but I want to say in the March April time frame, I saw a lot going on Facebook with y'all's businesses,
Yeah.
and that was right at the start of COVID. And tell us what you guys were doing for the community of Northwest Arkansas when
Yeah.
COVID started.
So like we spoke earlier about the community is everything for all businesses. We've always been, since we've been open, we've always tried to be in the school districts and get in their fundraisers and be a part of the school districts and as much as we can give back to them. And then so when March rolled around and the schools were talking about shutting down and whatnot, my brother posted something on Facebook. And for all the younger listeners, Facebook is a platform that older people use to to like and share stuff, kind of like Twitter and Instagram mashed together.
There's algorithms, they'll bury
Yeah,
your content because
they'll
they
bury.
can. You can try to boost and pay for it, but they'll also turn that away as well.
Yeah, so he posted something on Facebook, and it was a lengthier statement status than what I'm going to say. But basically, he said, "Hey, if the school's closed, anybody that's on free and reduced lunch can come to these restaurants, and we'll give you free lunch." And there was no parameters on it. Nothing was set, right? So it was Monday. Every day you could come in free and reduced lunch, and then that. When he hit submit, it instantly blew up and it went viral like crazy. I think right now it has like 12,000 shares. So it got shared over 12,000 times, but also people were screenshotting it and putting it on Twitter and Instagram and even Snapchat stories. And so overnight, it became this huge thing where people were like when the schools did shut down, we honored it and it was a fantastic experience. And you didn't have to show an ID. You didn't have to prove to us that you were a student of the school and that you are actually on free and reduced lunch, because what it wasn't about that. It was about feeding the hungry. It was about feeding people that aren't going to get lunch at home or even food. And it's not something that someone should have to go through. Thankfully, I never went through that. But that's not something that someone should ever have to go through. And it's not their own fault. And a 7-year-old should be able to eat lunch, and so we were providing that for them. And I think we were the first company, and there were some other companies, thankfully, that followed us, and they followed suit, and they also offered to do that for the kids, and it was a fantastic experience. And it not only did it helped the brand out. That's not what we were going for. We were generally just trying to help customers out and people that have never, just the kids. It was fantastic. It was a great experience. It was over $48,000 worth of food we gave away in a time frame of March, so April, May, June, because they got out of school in June. So it was basically 3 months that we gave away $40,000 worth of food. It was a fantastic experience.
How are you guys able to do it?
Our people, our people have bought in to what we believe, and I think they believe it. And so it was we're all on the same side of the rock, and if you're all pushing on the same side of the rock, you can push that rock anywhere you want. And 100%, you just get on the same side of the rock, and that's what happened. Everybody got on the same side of the rock. It sells, even though, so like if you wanted to equate it to if those were those are paid orders, it was over 60% increase in sales. But once again, those are all free, so that doesn't actually count towards our sales increase. But it was a 60% increase in sales. So think about like going from normal sales instantly, you're at 60% extra. That is an insane amount. It was very complicated on our end as far as like the orders just coming through, but 99.9% of the customers that we dealt with had a huge smile on their face. Their kids were super happy, even though COVID was going on. We didn't have a clue what was going on. Everybody was kind of panicking about the state of America and our health. People were still coming in with smiles and driving through the drive-thrus with smiles. It was a fantastic experience.
So let me in on, I guess, a little bit of the business side of this. So I see a lot of times where like your big business will donate like, you know, X number of dollars towards, you know, St. Jude's Hospital or, you know, the McDonald's Foundation, blah, blah, blah. Was this, do you guys normally have in your budget a giving deal? Is this an add-on deal that you guys did? Is this?
I lost you. I lost you there for a second. What was that?
Okay. So do you guys have in your business like a way that is this like a tax write-off for you guys? Is this a loss? Like how are you going to show this?
Yeah, so a lot of it can be a tax write-off as far as like a charitable donation. For most companies, we haven't gotten through all that yet since we're still in 2020. We're still cycling through that as far as our tax reasons and stuff go. At the end of the day, if we don't get to write it off, that's not a big deal to us. The main thing was that we wanted to help people out. And so like there'll be more coming from behind that'll push us forward than this little loss that we may have if we don't get to write anything off. But as far as budget goes, we have things budgeted for this, but not $40,000 worth, obviously. As far as the company size, each store, since they're, you know, relative to each size, our budgets were different for each store for like charitable giveaways and stuff like that. And so that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, dude, I absolutely love the story. I mean, I was watching it, you know, I remember when Nick shared it or like as soon as he hit submit, I remember seeing it take off and it going like just climbing the ladder. And then shortly after, a lot of other businesses started doing this as well. But from you guys doing this, what do you think that your customers say about your business?
Oh, well, so we've had a lot of customers still come in this day and say, hey, the only reason why I'm eating with you guys is because of what y'all did in March. You know, and they're like, also your pizza's great, but we'll never leave because of what you did. You know, your product's great, but what you did for the community and for those kids will never leave. So it was all positive feedback. You know, it was fantastic. And like we would have teachers and staff members from the schools that the kids, so like we didn't offer delivery for those services, but there was teachers and staffing members that were willing to come get the product and actually deliver it to the kids at each home. And that was like amazing to see. It was fantastic. It was like, once again, not only we completely intertwined ourselves with the school districts, you know, unbelievably well, just their willingness to work with us and pick up product for the kids and us, the willingness to keep doing what we were doing. It was just really great. It was such a good experience.
And I believe it.
Great outcome.
You gotta love it. It's, I don't know. It's kind of like, would you rather get a compliment on yourself or would you rather get one on your business?
Yeah, no, I don't even want the compliments. I want my people, you know, the people that work with us, you know, like, you know, when they say, I love this store, that's not because of what I'm doing. It's because of what the people in that store are doing. You know, now granted, I may have helped them get there, but overall they're in that store every day. And it's what they're doing that makes it successful. Not what I'm doing at that moment. So compliments for me, I'll take them. I love them, but I would rather them be passed down to the people that, you know, that really work, you know, in their stores every day. And they you know, they're tough. So
if you had to combine all your thoughts from everything that we've talked about and just offer a one-liner of like wisdom and encouragement for anybody listening, what would you say?
Man, I'd say really no matter what you're going through and no matter how hard it is, just keep working hard, keep fighting, and whatever you're trying to achieve will pay off. You'll be able to achieve it as long as you're working for it.
Yeah. the properties of a seed, man. You plant a seed, you water the seed.
Right. Speak it into existence.
Yeah. Speak it into existence.
Say what you're going to do and then go do it.
Yeah. That's what I'm doing with this podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, I've started a podcast. This is one of my earlier episodes in recording, but I've got, several more lined up. And then at a certain point, I'm going to get to a place where I'm like, hey, Zach, who do you know that I should interview too? That way I can just keep kind of growing it. So think on that for the time being. But in the next 10 years, where do you guys see yourself?
Yeah. So in 10 years, man, honestly, I have no clue. We want to say, and for me personally, I want to, first off, have a healthy family, healthy, loving family, which I have right now, and just hope to keep growing that 10 years later. I hope to be able to grow the business enough to where everyone that has the willingness to stay with us has an opportunity to be successful in their own path. Not working. I don't want these kids to work for me their whole life. I want to be able to help them go buy a store, whatever they want to do. And they've had all of the training with us to know how to go do it when their time comes. And when that time comes, I'll most definitely regretfully let them go, because obviously you want to keep as many people as you can, but also that's best for them. So that's what we'll do. That's where I want to be in 10 years is I want to see the 3 or 4 main people that are with our organization right now own their own thing.
Dude, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
It's a lot of these questions, like I've just kind of hit you with on the fly, and we've got our script, but this is really kind of letting me into the heart of Zac Morgan and what you guys do for your business.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. So you got anything else that you want to talk about that I may have missed?
No, man. I think you covered everything. As far as like kind of what we talked about going over and everything. No, I'm good, man.
Zac Morgan. So thanks for taking the time out of your busy day to come hang out with me on the Daily People podcast. For those of y'all listening, you can find my guy Zac Morgan on Facebook, Zac Morgan, Instagram at @Z_AC_Morgan, where he posts all of his running pics, and he looks super tired at the end. Got any one-liners for the audience on your way out, Zac?
No, man. I just work hard, work out what you want. You'll have it. And I appreciate this friendship, and I wish you the best with this endeavor you got going on.
Yeah, man. Thanks again for your time, brother. Have a good afternoon.
You too.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? This is your host, John Mark Spear. I wanted to take a moment to just say thank you for listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed it, please share it. If you have any questions about it, you can reach out to me. My email is johnmarkspear0830@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening. Thanks again for sharing.